Welcome back to another episode of the game analysis series. In case if you're new here, my name is Ujjwal. I'm having a FIDE rating of 1814 and I've been playing chess for nearly a decade. In today's video, we are going to analyze one of the most fascinating games played in the chess history. Bobby Fischer versus Mikhail Tal from the 1959 Candidates Tournament held in Bled-Zagreb-Belgrade. I can assure you, by the end of the video, you are going to thank me for showing you such a mind-blowing game that can even be played in chess. So grab your seats tightly, get the popcorn if you want. The show is going to get started, so let's begin. Okay, so Bobby Fischer is playing with white, Mikhail Tal is playing with black, and Bobby with the white pieces started the game with 1e4. We have c5 by Mikhail Tal, the Sicilian defense, knight f3, d6, d4, takes, knight f6, attacking the pawn on e4, we have the move knight c3, defending the pawn on e4, and now we have the move a6, also known as the Sicilian knight of variation. So after a6, the whole point behind a6 is to cover the b5 square, as both the knights and the bishops eyes on the square on b5, so it makes a lot of sense to play the move a6. We have the move bishop to c4 by white. The idea is to simply castle up and also putting the bishop on a very nice square. We have the move e6 by black. And now in this position, when I was analyzing the game, I was thinking, can black play the move b5, attacking the white's c4 bishop? Once the bishop goes back, black can push the pawn to b4, attacking the knight on c3. And basically, the moment the knight moves from the c3 square, black can go for capturing the pawn on e4. But turns out, white is having the move knight to d5. And in this position, if you try to go for capturing the pawn on e4, indeed I can go for capturing the pawn back with knight cross b4, but even a better move would have been to play the move queen to f3, which attacks the knight. And if the knight move, I'm also attacking the rook on a8. So already white has developed 4 of his pieces, whereas black has developed only 1. So clearly it states that white is simply better. Going back, that's the reason b5 is not really working up, because white is having knight to d5 in the end of the day. So instead of, at the place of b5, we have the move e6 by black by Mikhail Tal. The idea is pretty simple. The idea is to simply develop the last square bishop and simply castle up and play a simple game of chess. And now a simple move is indeed to simply castle up. We have the move bishop to b3 first, which is some sort of a prophylaxis move, because black's usual idea is to play the move queen c7, attack the bishop. So bishop b3 is already a safe move which can be played. And I don't know, maybe knight e4 is in the air. After knight e4, there is d5 attacking the bishop and the knight. I'm not sure if that's working, but that's definitely an idea. So bishop b3 makes a lot of sense. And now we have the move b5 by Mikhail Tal, because the idea is maybe to go for playing the move b4 now, as after, there is no knight d5 because the pawn is on e6. So after b5, we have the move f4 by Bobby Fischer. Now already, like, many of the players would simply go for playing a move like queen e2, simply defending the pawn, because black is going to play the move b4, or else some of the players might consider to play the move a3, covering the b4 square. But Fischer and Mikhail Tal both likes to play aggressive chess. He went for the move f4. And indeed, we have the question by Mikhail Tal to Bobby Fischer, b4, attacking the knight. The knight goes to a4, and Mikhail Tal simply chops off the pawn on e4. Black is simply a pawn up. And now, the main question lies up in this position. Fischer decides to castle up. And now what's happening? So basically, Bobby Fischer has sacrificed a pawn. He's a pawn down, but instead he has already castled up. He has 3 pieces he already have developed, whereas black's all pieces, nearly all pieces except 1, is still in the back rank. Only 1 piece has come out of the game. The king is still in the center. So basically now we are going to understand how to play the middle game. So basically, white has to play dynamic chess, whereas black is looking forward to get some 2 to 3 waiting move. Like, basically, black's idea is to simply develop the bishop, and he wants to castle up. The moment he is able to achieve that, we can say black has sort of consolidated the position, and black is simply a pawn up. And even if I get the d5 in, I'm already very happy. So the main question lies is, how should white try to continue the position? let's say if you're in the shoes of Bobby Fischer, you're playing with white, try to pause the video and try to think. You have to play dynamic chess. What do I mean by dynamic chess? You have to play fast. How are you going to continue the possession? You can try to pause the video and try to find the move. Okay, so first of all, it's black to move. It's already, first of all, you can try to pause the video and try to find the move for black first, because it's already very hard to play with the black pieces. For example, if, let's say, bishop e7 or bishop b7 looks a very natural move in the position. Let's start with bishop b7. Makes sense, you're developing the bishop, defending the knight. Now comes f5. White is going to play fast. White can't really waste time by playing some slow move like king h1, bishop e3. That would be too slow. You have to play dynamic. You have to play fast. f5. White's idea is to simply take, and white is simply winning. Black have to push the pawn, because taking the pawn would also be a very bad move. Black king is very weak. The bishop on b3 is opened up. The rook is opened up. White is completely winning. Black have to push. Now comes knight e6, which is an insane move. It is a brilliant move. It attacks the queen. Let's say black goes for capturing the knight. White can give a check. The king have to move. As after g6, I can simply go for capturing the g6. You can't take, lose the rook, and lose the game. You have to move the king. I can take the pawn. The king move. Let's say king c7. I'm having bishop e3 threatening bishop b6. So let's say king c8. Now bishop e3 once again. And like, white is a piece down, but white is completely winning. The king is absolutely busted. I want to play the move c3, get the rook to c1, and that's GG. Black's game over. Knight b6 is also coming up, and that the game is over. So that's exactly what happens if, in case if black goes for capturing the knight on e6. Let's say black goes for playing the move like queen e7. After queen e7, white can already play bishop e3. Let's say black takes, I can take it back, because now there is no queen h5 because there is queen f7. So after let's say knight goes back, because I'm threatening to play the move rook f7, which is a deadly move. You have to go back with the knight. I can jump in with the knight, attacking the rook. The rook have to move, and now c3. c3 is a very strong move in the position, because black's all pieces on the king side is not going to get moved up. I just want to get the open c file for my rook, get the a rook into the game, and that's game over for black. White is a piece down, but that's completely winning for white. So that's exactly what happens if black plays bishop b7. Let's say black plays a move like bishop e7. Developing the bishop, and the idea is to simply castle up, and black would be in an absolutely fine position. White is once again going to get the f5 break-in. Once again, you can't take, you have to push the pawn. And now, there are multiple ways to win. Mainly two that I like personally, which is bishop cross f7 check, sacrificing the bishop, or another approach is once again knight e6. Knight e6 is the cleanest way, but I'm going to first start with the bishop cross f7. Though both the moves are played with the same idea, is to play with dynamic chess. You have to play fast as you're already a pawn down. Bishop cross f7 check, sacrificing the bishop, getting the knight to e6 in. And now let's say if bishop goes for capturing the knight, after takes, king takes, I can give a check. The king have to move to d5 to defend the knight. So after king d5, bishop e3, the rook is getting in with rook d1, and black is completely losing. Let's say black does not take the knight, the queen is hanging, so black is going to move the queen. Once the queen moves, now I can give a check. Black have to play g6, because black is not really having any other move. I can take. Knight's a double check. Black have to take the knight. I can push the pawn, attack the rook. Black have to play rook g8 to defend the pawn promotion. Now comes a check, and white can go for capturing the rook using the complete chessboard, and white is completely winning. So that's exactly what happens. Bishop cross f7 is completely winning. Another way is to play the move knight e6, attacking the queen and the pawn on g7. You have to take, you are not really having any other choice. Once again, I'm having queen h5 check. The king have to move, check, king c7, bishop e3, bishop to b6 is coming up, and that's completely over. I can play the move rook c1, c3, and black's game is over. So that's exactly what happens if black goes for playing absolutely natural moves like bishop e7 or bishop b7. It's very hard to play moves like g6, which is the best move in the position, and Mikhail Tal actually founded it. You know your opponent is too ahead in development. You have to develop your pieces fast, and you're a world-class player. Despite knowing all of that, you're pushing the pawn to g6 because you know the position by heart that this position requires a pawn move to g6. But it doesn't really matter as Bobby Fischer once again pushes the pawn to f5. He doesn't care. f5, he's playing dynamic chess. He can't play slow chess like bishop e3. Black would get the opportunity to play the move bishop g7 and consolidate the position. He has to play fast. f5 is an absolutely best move in the position. Now black have to take the pawn on f5. G cross f5. Of course, e cross f5 looks like it's the other move, but definitely it looks like a bad move. Black would be having a weak pawn on d6. The bishop is opened up on b3. Absolutely, this should be completely winning for white, and the best way to win the position is to play bishop d5, attacking the rook. The rook have to move, and now white can once again sack the knight on f5. Black have to take it, and the moment black takes it, I can play queen d4, attack both the rooks on a7 and h8, and that's completely winning for white. So that's the reason black have to play gf5, which is a very natural move you have to take with the g pawn. And now comes the move knight cross f5. Once again sacrificing the knight, and that's a brilliant move once again. You can't take the knight, as after queen to d5 attacking the rook have to move queen d4, and once again with the same idea, both the rooks are attacked. Blacking is still in the center, and black is completely winning. White is completely winning. Going back, black played the move rook g8, which is sort of a best move in the position. After rook g8, we have the move bishop to d5, which is once again an insane move. That's an insane move. I wanted you guys to spot it, but I just showed it pretty fast. But once again, a brilliant move, bishop d5. If it go for capturing the bishop in the position, there is queen d5. The rook and knight, both the pieces are attacked. Rook a7, I can take the knight. The bishop e6, and now bishop e6, material wise, after bishop e6, the position is even. But just look at the quality of the pieces. Blacking is still in the center. All the pawns of blacks are extremely weak. White is having an absolutely crushing position. Bishop e3, bishop f4, get the other rook into the game, and white is completely winning. So instead we have the move rook a7 by Mikhail Tal, and now we have the move bishop cross d5, e cross f5, and now we have the move bishop cross f5, rook e7, we have a bishop trade, and now we have the move bishop to f4. Now till here, both the players played some amazing chess, amazing attack, amazing defense. So after queen cross e8, and now this is the moment when engines intervene. Bishop f4 is not the best way to continue. Now the best move was to continue with rook f2. Why rook f2? Because it defends the pawn on g2. So that after queen c6, when black is threatening a mate, white rook has already defended the mate, and now the knight is also hanging, so white can finally play the move c3, defend the knight, and white is simply better. But instead, Fischer played the move bishop f4. He wanted to capture the pawn on d6 with the bishop, and it makes a lot of sense. You're trying to develop all the pieces as you're already in ahead of development. But now after queen c6, it attacks the knight on a4 and also threats a mate on g2. So finally, Fischer decides to protect the mate. He gave up the knight, and I'm 100% sure that he must have seen this line. He goes for capturing the pawn on d6 with the bishop, attacking the rook and the bishop, attacking the rook and the knight. We have the move queen c6, an amazing defend once again by Mikhail Tal. The threat is to simply trade off the queen. And once again, let me tell you, queen c6 is a brilliant move. Now basically, if you try to go for trading off the queen, black is already better, because black is having two minor pieces for the rook and black is the one pushing for the win. So in this position after queen c6, Fischer decides to go for capturing the knight, and now many of the players, like many, even me, would definitely consider a move like, okay, let me just trade off the queen. And that's an absolutely fine position. That's a fine position. Material wise, white is having 5 pawns, black is having 4 pawns, but it's an even position. Black can hold. Because the question is, why do we trade off the queen? The reason is because our king is still in the center. We got scared. But Mikhail Tal is a beast. He gives a check on b6 and go for capturing the bishop. And now we have the move queen c6 check, which is the last mistake of the game by Fischer. And he gave the advantage to Mikhail Tal. He should have played the move rook a to e1 And basically now queen c6 is a very powerful move coming up, as there is no rook d7. The rook is pinned. And let's say after king d8, which is an insane move to play, after takes, there is check, and basically there are a couple of checks that white can play, and the game would end in a draw. But both the players love to play attacking chess. None of the players would agree to a draw, so we have the move queen c6 check. Rook d7, rook e1 check, bishop e7, and now you can understand how black has gotten all his pieces into the game, and now black is absolutely fine, a piece up. Rook cross f7 by Fischer. Takes, check, and he took the rook. So basically white is having 5 pawns, black is having 3 pawns, but black is having the bishop. Queen d6, queen moves to b7, rook g6, and now finally the king looks a bit safe finally on f8. c3, a5, check, king g7, queen c4, bishop to d8, takes, g3, and black got the opportunity to trade off the queen. So we have a queen trade, rook b6, king g2, and now both the players are getting the king into the game. And now it's a check, king d5 attacking the rook, king d3, bishop over here, bishop over here. Now black is slowly going to get, the idea is to simply get the rook and basically push the king into the corner, and that's exactly what happened. Okay, rook goes back, king over here, bishop to d4 with the threat of rook f3. We have the move a3, and now we have the move b3. It doesn't matter whatever you do. You try to go rook e2, I can give a check, kicking the king even further, king c4, and black is already pushing forward. So that's the reason we have a3, b3, and now we have the move rook to c8 when white loses the pawn on b2. If white goes for playing a move like rook e2, defending the pawn, there is simply rook check. The king is not really having any move. White have to give up the rook, and that's completely winning for black. So that's why we have rook c8. Black went for capturing the pawn. That's a check. The king goes back. Rook b8 attacking the pawn. But now we have rook f3 check. It's a check. The king goes to c4, and now giving a check on c3, which is a very important move. If you try to go for capturing the pawn on a3, that would be a draw, because after takes, this endgame is absolutely draw. Why? Because it's a wrong color square in the end of the day, so the king only has to go into the corner, and that's a draw. So that's why we have a rook check, king over here, and now first king c7, rook goes to b5, and now bishop a1 with the threat of b2, b1, and that's a game over. We have a4 and now b2, and after b2, Bobby Fischer decides to resign the game. He can't take the rook because after b1 queen, it's a check, and the game is over. So that's why after b2, Bobby Fischer decides to resign the game. The question is, like, what happened? So there was some insane attack done by Fischer on Mikhail Tal. If there would have been any normal person, he would have definitely been crushed. Finding defensive move when your opponent is sacrificing pieces left and right is insane. It's insane how both the players played some god level chess, amazing attack, amazing defense, and finding defensive moves are extremely hard. Extremely hard. It's easy to attack, but it's definitely very hard to defend. And like psychologically, if your opponent is sacrificing the pieces left and right, you psychologically get simply down, and you simply blunder a piece, and you blunder the position, and you lose the game. But Mikhail Tal kept the control throughout the game, defended the position extremely well with some brilliancies, and eventually he got one single chance, and he did not let it slip, and he was able to win the game. And that's some insane chess played by both the players. If both the players were facing any other opponent, they would have easily won. But this game was a masterpiece, an absolutely masterpiece. Both the players were former world champion, which is insane. So this was the game. So I hope you guys must have loved the analysis, must have understood how to play dynamic chess. It's a very important concept in the middle game, how to play dynamically when you're materially down. Basically, you're not materially down, but you sacrifice material to get the dynamic advantage, and how to convert those advantage. By finding right move, you have to play fast. You cannot allow your opponent to get some time to consolidate his position. You have to play fast and get the advantage, just like Bobby Fischer did. So that's it for today. I hope you guys have loved the video, loved the analysis. If you did, make sure to like, share and smash that subscribe button. I'm going to see you soon in the next one. Thank you for watching and bye bye.